Hey guys, and welcome back. I hope everyone's had an awesome week. I myself have had an excellent week because this past weekend I got to go shoot waterfalls in the Ouachita National Forest. I got to shoot Whiskey Falls with my good buddy Randy Sander for the first time. And I even got a bonus shot that morning. We went out on Saturday and I got to shoot an amazing sunrise along Broken Bow Lake. So in this week's video, I want to kind of take you behind the scenes a little bit as I shot these waterfalls and talk about some of the challenges of arriving at a new waterfall, a new location for the first time, how to find the right composition. I'll talk about some of the challenges with these waterfalls, as well as some of the techniques that I used to get these shots once I finally did find my composition. So stick around and we're going to go to Whiskey Falls. So a few months back, my friend Randy Sander, who you've heard me talk about countless times on this channel, he's out in Ouachita and Broken Bow area, he posted a picture of Whiskey Falls. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go and check out this place. So I started talking to him, and at the time, he was calling it Cucumber Falls. And someone corrected him and said, no, that's actually kind of an offshoot of Cucumber Creek, but it's called Whiskey Falls. And it's just an unbelievable waterfall. And so I've been kind of planning on getting out there with Randy. When we went up to Talamina Drive and we shot the snowstorm, we saw the little road leading down to the falls, and it was all kind of impassable, like totally covered in snow. And so it's sort of been there, like it's been gnawing at me, like I want to go out there as soon as possible. Well, we just got inundated last week with rain in Oklahoma. We had like a 3-inch rain followed up by like another 4-inch rain. And about last Wednesday, I was thinking, I bet it would be an awesome time to go to Whiskey Falls. And it wasn't 5 minutes later that Randy texted me and he said, it's probably a good opportunity to go shoot Whiskey Falls. So we made our plans, and that's exactly what we did. So last Saturday, the clouds were sort of hanging out and they were trying to break up. And I got out of my camper at like 6 a.m., opened the door, and I saw just this unbelievable color that I wasn't expecting. And Randy texted me. We were about to meet up at 7:30. He said, I hope you're out shooting this color somewhere. We weren't expecting any kind of color. So the first thing I did is I drove just as fast as I could over to the overlook at Broken Bow Lake. And I got there just a few minutes before the sun came up over the horizon. You could see that sort of glow and yellow. Everything looked orange and yellow and red, and the sky was just on fire with color. So I scrambled down the trail and I got my tripod. I hadn't even had my coffee yet. So I'm like shaking and nervous anticipation of getting this awesome sunrise. And I was just like, I just got to throw the camera up on a tripod and get the shot. When you arrive and the color's not going to last very long, you just have to set up and shoot. So I got to the overlook, set up a tripod, and I shot this pano over Broken Bow Lake that morning. And I just can't even describe the way the water, the way the clouds look, that one big streaky orange, it's like a streak of fire going down on the right-hand side. And I just barely got there in time to capture that shot. And so once I got that one in the can, I kind of followed the trail on down, and I found this stand of pine trees right on the edge, closer to the water, and you could see some rocks and stuff. And so I thought, man, the color's kind of hanging on, so let me see if I can get another pano. You can tell a huge difference already in this one, how much the color has changed, and now the blue is creeping in the sky, but all the fire has kind of gone away. But I was able to pull off this one, which is a super wide pano, to get the trees all the way on my left and the trees on my right. You can see how the sun's hitting the left side of the trees on the right side and the right side of the trees on the left. So this is like a super wide pano, and it gives you this dip that goes down in the middle. I don't really like that, but that's just what you're going to get when you do a pano on a wide angle lens that's just that wide. You're going to get that. But I went ahead and cut this together anyway, just to kind of show you what I got. But mainly I wanted you to see how quickly the light changed. There couldn't have been 7 minutes difference between shooting the first one and shooting that second shot, and it had already changed that much. So definitely get there early. If you have any possibility of getting a sunrise, get there early. You don't want to be like me and scramble around, run around like a headless chicken trying to find a composition. And I think I could have even done better if I had gotten there earlier and had time to set it up. But that's just a little bonus tip for the week. But as soon as we got the color was gone, Randy tried to scramble out there too, but by the time he got there, the color was basically over with. The light show that God put on that morning was already gone. But he and I loaded up into the truck, and we made the drive north to go to Whiskey Falls. Now, to get there, you have to go north of Broken Bow on Highway 259, and you go through this little township called Octavia, and then there's an old Forestry Service road that just goes off on the side of a really sharp curve. It's kind of dangerous if you're pulling out there, especially. You got to watch out because cars are really coming down that hill fast. But on the way up there, we saw the clouds were rolling in, of course, and the sun was filtering through really strangely through these clouds, and there was still some low fog hanging out. And so Randy mentioned, you might ought to take your drone up right here and see if you can get a shot, because there really wasn't an overlook where you could see. We had a turnout, but you really couldn't see anything. So I took my drone quickly out of my camera bag and got it in the air, and it was pretty spectacular, the scene that we captured right there off the highway in the Ouachita National Forest. So after I buzzed around, got some video clips, and I got this one nice pano, I found where I could get a composition and show the creek leading into the distant fog and the sun filtering through the clouds. I thought this was kind of a cool little pano that I got, and that's the great thing about having a drone is you literally have a tripod in the sky. So where we couldn't see it with the tripod, or even Randy climbed up on the back of my truck trying to get a shot, it just wasn't there. The trees just blocked everything down that valley, and you certainly couldn't see the stream down below. But just giving yourself that extra elevation, being able to get up over the trees and look down, I am having an absolute ball shooting some aerial still photography. But the challenge is really trying to find something to put in the foreground. That's always going to be the hard thing with drone photography, is trying to get the shot to have something to anchor it in the foreground. So this was about a 4-shot pano that I stitched together horizontally, and it was 2 shots vertically. So it was about an 8-shot pano total that stitched this together. And I kind of got as close as I could down to the trees to make the row of trees a little bit of a foreground element. And I had to wait because the sun kept dodging in and out of these clouds as they were moving, and I got it just at that point where it wasn't totally blasting out the sensor, but it was just filtering through the clouds. So I was pretty happy with that little pano, but after that we needed to get to Whiskey Falls pretty quick. So we go down the road, we park the truck just a little bit down the road. There's a wide turnout, and beyond that the road gets really, really tight. There's some limbs that are growing across, and I assume if you have a Jeep or a narrower vehicle, or if you have a truck that you just don't really care to jack up the paint job on, you could probably drive almost to the base of Whiskey Falls. At first I thought the Forestry Service had actually brought that rock in, but apparently it was just the road that they constructed from the rain and everything washing across it, washed the water away and just left those rocks there. So it's like a cobblestone road almost that goes up to Whiskey Falls. And you got to go through some low spots, and where water crosses, there's a creek that crosses the road, so you got to wear muck boots or something waterproof or just go wading through. But I would highly recommend heavy boots, tall boots, because the place is covered with poison ivy. Once you start going up in that ravine, it's really damp and shaded up in there, and the whole place was just covered. Anything green, just about it, was poison ivy. So I was actually really glad that I had worn those tall boots. So we get up to the lower part of Whiskey Falls, and right away I knew that we had arrived somewhere very, very special. The falls was rushing over. It was a big stream of water from all the rain. It was a really wet area, and this one big snag kind of went up across the left side of the falls and made kind of a W shape at the bottom. And so I really was just struggling, like, how in the world am I going to get a composition? So the first thing I did is walked around and took my camera. I put it on like an 1/8 of a second shutter speed to sort of preview how the falls would look with a little bit longer shutter. I was just shooting handheld. So the first thing that I did is I walked all the way around to the back of the falls. And I shot this picture here, and right away I noticed I loved how the little fountain of grass that was clinging onto that rock ledge on the back. This is just a raw photo, but I loved how that little clump of grass could kind of give me an anchor point. So I was making mental notes. I was thinking, that is cool. But the shape of that W at the bottom, not that I don't like W, right? That's my last initial, but it was a strong element, and I wasn't really sure how to handle it. I think it's funny, in this picture you can see Randy, he's struggling over there trying to get a composition too, and I think I ended up running him off because he went up to the upper Whiskey Falls, because I think I kept encroaching on his shot once I got back on that ledge. But so I got that one, and then I came back around the falls a little bit, and I took this composition. I actually really like this composition more now than I did then. At first I thought it was a little weird having the big tree come down on the left, and then the snag going back up to the right. It made sort of a V. It's such a strong element still with that bottom W. I just wasn't sure that I would actually try to shoot from this angle, but I really love the personality of the rocks, and I love how I have that one flat rock towards the front as sort of a little bit of an anchor point. But I didn't like how the water just came all the way into the bottom of the frame, so that really to me wasn't the strongest composition. I tried going on the other side of that big tree and got really low and thought, well, maybe I should embrace this W-shaped snag and make it a part of the shot. But as you can see here, it was just very, very overpowering. I didn't really like the fact that the only thing I had in the foreground were just pine needles and leaves, and then also the water leading off. It just took your eye out of the frame. I didn't really like that, so I didn't end up shooting that particular composition as an actual shot. I moved a little bit further to the left and tried to incorporate the W snag again, but it was crossing over the waterfall, and then I had the sky in the background, which was overcast at this point and just looked like a blasted out sky, and I just really didn't want to shoot that. So I tried backing up too and seeing if I could crop out some of the sky, and I found this really neat rock that had some moss on it. I thought I could maybe use this as an anchor point. Of course, this is just a composition attempt, not really trying to do a focus stack or anything. This is just one single frame. This is basically the raw photo, but it just made the falls too distant, and there wasn't much of that really colorful water at the bottom, so I wanted to see more of that color, of course, and so this just wasn't working at all. I even tried going vertical and standing up a little taller just to see if I could bring some more of that water in, but I was still getting that blown out sky. I was still getting that snag coming across the waterfall. I was still getting the weird W, and then there was so much rock and dirt between me and the falls that it just seemed to push it too far to the back, too far to the distance. So I ended up going all the way back around to my original starting point, and I ended up shooting this shot from Lower Whiskey Falls. And I really love the way this one came out, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this one, how I kind of put it all together. But I did a vertical shot. This is a single frame, but I did a focus stack. I didn't try to do a pano or anything. But here, I love the way the light was hitting that snag, and it was just where the bark had really gone off of it. It was sort of glowing. The sun was now filtering through and kind of giving me this golden glow on that branch, and I just really, really love that. And I played around with my shutter speed and tried, you know, a 15th of a second, a 10th of a second, an 1/8, a 1/6, a 1/5. I did a 1/4 of a second, and I ultimately chose a 1/2 second shutter on this particular falls, and I got maybe 8 or 10 frames at 1/2 a second, and I really just liked the way the personality of the water looked in this one. There's like a little spray that kind of came out over in front of the log, and I really liked that effect. But I had to do a focus stack of about 4 different positions of focus, starting with the little grass and then moving to the sort of that area where that orange rock is. Then I ended up shooting a focus on the sort of fountain grass that's in the deep shadow of the rock, and then I did one more along the log and the trees in the background. And that gave me that full depth of range of focus all the way through the shot. And then I ended up shooting a few of the frames at a 60th of a second to sort of freeze the foliage, and then I used my 1/2 second shot and layered it over the top so that I could have the soft water look in the waterfall. And I did deepen the color a little bit. I did some dehaze and things on the water to kind of bring out some of that green. I'll also mention that I did use a circular polarizer to kind of cut through the water and see some of that deep color. And it was kind of funny how I had to put my tripod. If you can see, the center point of this frame is right on that fountain grass. I don't really know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm going to call it here. And I had one leg of my tripod full stick, fully extended, and it was all the way down into the pool, and I was able to land it on a rock down there. Any forwards or any inches backwards, it would have gone even deeper, but I found a rock and I put the foot on that rock, and it just worked out that if I left the other 2 legs of the tripod fully pushed in, then it could sit right on the rock and kind of have a nice stable base. I wasn't too worried about the camera toppling unless a water current or something moved that bottom foot, and I had to really make sure that bottom foot didn't slip, or else it could have actually toppled off the rock. But once you have the tripod locked down, then you can shoot these longer shutter speeds, get your 1/2 second shots and even beyond if you want to. But I will say that I really worked the scene. I walked my way through all of these different compositions. I talked myself out of a few of them. I talked myself into one of them, which I ended up shooting. But it's good to kind of give yourself that opportunity to work your way all the way around and try different things. Get low, get up high, move back, move a little bit closer, and just don't even have your camera on a tripod. I had this totally handheld. I was able to go vertical or horizontal, and I just shot a bunch of different shots just to sort of see what was there. And often you really can't even tell what your composition is going to look like unless you actually shoot it and then review it on camera, because things in a 3-dimensional space are always going to look different in a 2-dimensional space. So shoot those preview shots. You can even take your phone and go around and take some pictures and sort of see what your composition's doing. And I wasn't even convinced at this point that I had the shot. And Randy walked back to the edge of the falls, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna have to go pretty soon. It's starting to get a little bit late." I think he had to go to a baseball game with his grandson. He said, "But this upper falls is probably even better. You need to at least come up here and see it." I'm like, "What do we got? 15, 20? He's like, "Maybe. So you better get up here." So I scrambled, got all my gear, went up to the top, and that's when I was thinking, oh my goodness, I wish that I had gone to the upper falls first, because to me it was much more interesting. It had multiple cascades of water, and I was just blown away.
Okay, just up to the next level of the falls is absolutely amazing. I wish I had come here first because this is absolutely my favorite falls of the day. Wait till you see this one. Look at this amazing multiple cascade waterfall. I found an amazing composition right over here. And of course I am absolutely knee deep in poison ivy. Fortunately I have these crazy snake boots, so hopefully that's kept me out of the poison ivy for the most part. But would you look at this? Amazing. And the sun is filtering through those trees and putting that nice glisten on that log. Can you just believe this waterfall? This is my favorite waterfall. This is my favorite waterfall. 100%. And I'll try to show you what I just shot. And tilt the screen down. Get one of my more longer shutter speeds. I don't know if it'll focus. I'm trying. Oh my goodness. Look at that light filtering through. God really painted a scene here, did he not? And the angles, and look at the geometry of this place. I mean, it's just an incredible architectural rock formation. With the angles, it's almost like a 90-degree, and then it just wraps around and water falls off of this little ledge down here. This is just breathtaking. Absolutely 100% my favorite waterfall. So what do you like about this falls?
It's so secluded, beautiful, just nature at its best.
It really is. God painted an absolute unbelievable picture here, did he not?
Yes, ma'am.
Just unbelievable. This is my favorite waterfall.
So with limited time, I didn't have time really to go around and get all of those different setup shots like I had done on the lower falls. That was my drawback from not going to the upper falls first. But the upper falls was just this amazing, amazing waterfall. And now I know I have to go back again and spend a lot more time at the upper Whiskey Falls. I was so fortunate though, before I pulled the plug on that shoot, that I found this one composition and I got this shot from upper Whiskey Falls. It was just amazing how the water on this lower ledge, it's like a front porch for the falls. It wrapped all the way around to the back of the falls, and this old log was laying in the water that kind of really gave you a sense of the depth of the pool. The sunlight was filtering down through the trees in just an amazing fashion. And I got this one composition that I'm pretty proud of, down kind of lower to that left-hand ledge as your eye kind of leads around from that towards that log. I felt like that was a really good flow from left to right, and I was able to get all of the milky sky out of the shot by being this low. I didn't have any of the sky coming through those trees, and you could see the mist kind of coming up from the falls into those trees a little bit, and the sun filtering through. Like every few minutes the clouds would get really thin and you'd start to get this glow in the falls. And so I just, it worked out perfectly. Like God orchestrated the timing and everything on this one, because Randy, he was getting antsy. He had to go. And so I'm down, I'm shooting this last shot, and the sun broke through the clouds just enough to give me this haze and this beautiful look on the falls. So I'll consider this one a win. This made me fall in love with Whiskey Falls, and it is, of course, now one of my favorite falls, if not my favorite falls to shoot. One thing I will note is someone carried a ladder and put up on the ledge just to the right of this log. So I was also struggling at this point to keep that ladder out of my shot. The next time I go up there, if I have time, I'm just going to move that ladder back and see if I can get a little bit more of a wide shot of the falls. But the lesson here is to always get there early. Give yourself plenty of time to explore and walk around and find different compositions. And then once you get it, what I did on this one also was a focus stack of about 4 images. And I think on this one, the shutter was at 1/4 of a second. I will put it on the screen if I'm incorrect, but I think it was 1/4 of a second on this one. And I was pretty low. I had to do a focus stack because of the depth of the shot, and I was so close to that foreground ledge. But just find that composition and then take the shots that work to make that a full composition. If you've got something really commanding in the front, do a focus stack. If you've got a big, deep depth of distance into the shot, like I have these trees in the far distant background, take a shot there, and then also take a few fast frames as well so that you can freeze that foliage. Because once you go in Photoshop, you do automate, you do scripts, and go into align, and then go into effects and do layer blending, and it'll give you the areas of highest focus all the way through to the back, and it'll use different parts and mask out the parts that are blurry. And that's exactly what I did here, and I think Photoshop did a pretty awesome job. I didn't really find any errors in this one that I had to go back in and clean up. But just move through your shot, look for things that you might tweak, maybe dodge and burn a little bit, but you can absolutely come up with some amazing results when you do a focus stack on a waterfall. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this little visit to the Ouachita National Forest and my new favorite waterfall, Whiskey Falls. And if you have gotten some benefit or some value from this video, I really would appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up and a like and share this video with your friends, and that will really help me grow my channel. Those thumbs ups are really going to help boost me and get me some more viewers. And I hope that you are encouraged to go out and explore and find a waterfall close to you. Maybe if you live in the area, you can make a trip to Whiskey Falls. And hey, if you do, maybe you ought to send me a message and let me know, because I'd be tempted to go back with you. But anyway, this one was just a really fun shoot, and I just can't explain the sounds and the smells of just being at a waterfall. And with everything going on in the world right now, it's just the perfect time to get out, spend some time with God, and just explore what He has just over the next ridge waiting for us. It's amazing. So have a great week. Get out and explore God's creation with childlike wonder, and take your camera. Have a great week, and I'll see you again on the next video. And if you happen to miss my last video, here come the links to that one and another one right now.